I spent 5 years fighting brain cancer. Not a single family member showed up. Not my husband, not my daughter-in-law, not my grandchildren. But here's the thing nobody tells you about being abandoned when you're dying. It doesn't kill you faster. It makes you stronger. My name is Millicent Parker. I'm 67 years old. And what I'm about to tell you will shock you to your core. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they wanted you dead? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. 3 months ago, I found out my family didn't just abandon me during my cancer fight. They caused it. They tried to murder me. And when that didn't work fast enough, they left me to die alone. But I didn't die. And now, I'm about to destroy them the same way they tried to destroy me. Let me take you back to where it all started. 5 years ago, I was living the perfect retirement. My husband Robert had passed 2 years earlier, but I was managing well in our beautiful home in Phoenix. I had my garden, my book club, my weekly dinners with my son Derek and his family. Derek was my only child, the light of my life. He'd married Jessica when he was 30, and she gave me 2 beautiful grandchildren, Emma and Tyler. Emma was 8 then, Tyler was 5. They called me Grandma Millie, and they spent every weekend at my house. Do you have someone in your life you'd trust with everything? Someone you'd give your last dollar to? Someone you'd die for? That was Derek for me. My baby boy, even at 35 years old. I remember the day everything changed so clearly. It was a Tuesday morning in March. Jessica had brought me my usual coffee. She always made it special, she said, with vitamins and honey. Drink up, Mom, she smiled sweetly. This will keep you healthy forever. If only I had known she was lying. I was sipping that coffee when the headache hit. Not just any headache. It felt like someone had driven a nail through my skull. I collapsed right there in my kitchen, coffee spilling everywhere. The next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital. Derek was there, holding my hand, crying. Mom, you had a seizure, he whispered. They're running tests. Jessica stood behind him, her face pale. But I swear I saw something else in her eyes. Something that looked almost like disappointment. Why would my daughter-in-law look disappointed that I was alive? The tests came back 2 days later. Stage 3 brain cancer. Glioblastoma. The doctor said I had maybe 6 months to live without treatment. With treatment, maybe 2 years if I was lucky. Derek squeezed my hand. We'll fight this together, Mom. As a family. But that was the last promise he ever kept. Because 3 weeks later, when I started chemotherapy, Derek stopped coming to my appointments. Jessica stopped bringing coffee. Emma and Tyler stopped spending weekends at my house. I was completely, utterly alone. And that's when I started to die. Not from the cancer, from the heartbreak. But here's what my family didn't count on. I'm too stubborn to die quietly. The chemotherapy was hell. Have you ever had poison pumped into your veins while you're already dying? Have you ever thrown up so hard you thought your insides would come out? That was my life for 6 months. Sitting in that treatment chair, alone, watching other patients with their families around them while I had nobody. I called Derek every day. Son, can you drive me to treatment today? I'm feeling weak. Sorry, Mom. Work is crazy right now. Maybe Jessica can take you. But Jessica was always busy too. The kids had activities. She had appointments. The house needed cleaning. Always an excuse. Never an honest answer. So I learned to drive myself to chemotherapy. A 67-year-old woman with brain cancer, driving herself to fight for her life because her family couldn't be bothered to show up. Do you know what that does to a person's soul? Do you know how it feels to realize you're fighting alone when you thought you had an army? By month 4, I stopped calling them. What was the point? They'd made their choice crystal clear. But then something strange happened. I started getting better. The tumors were shrinking. The doctors were amazed. Mrs. Parker, this is remarkable, Dr. Collins said, studying my scans. Your response to treatment is extraordinary. We might be looking at remission. I should have been happy. I should have been celebrating. Instead, I felt empty. What's the point of surviving if you have nobody to live for? That's when I decided to fight back. I hired a private investigator. His name was Marcus Webb, and he specialized in family disputes. I told him something felt wrong about my family's sudden abandonment. "Mrs. Parker, what exactly do you suspect?" he asked, pen ready. "I don't know," I admitted. "But people don't just disappear when someone they love gets cancer. There has to be a reason." Marcus nodded. "I've seen cases like this before. Usually involves money." "Money? I own my house outright, worth about $800,000. I had Robert's life insurance payout sitting in savings, another $400,000. Plus my retirement accounts and Social Security. Was I worth more dead than alive to my own family?" "Start with our finances," I told Marcus. "See if Derek and Jessica are in trouble." 3 weeks later, Marcus called me with news that made my blood run cold. "Mrs. Parker, your son and daughter-in-law are drowning in debt. Credit cards maxed out. Mortgage 3 months behind. And here's the kicker. Jessica took out a life insurance policy on you 6 months before your cancer diagnosis." My hands started shaking. "How much?" $500,000. She listed herself as the beneficiary. The room was spinning. Jessica had bet $500,000 on my death. But there was more. "Mrs. Parker, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully. That coffee Jessica always brought you, when did she start doing that?" I thought back. About 8 months before my diagnosis. She said she wanted to take better care of me after Robert died. "And the coffee was always made the same way?" "Yes. Special vitamins," she said. "And honey from her garden." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Mrs. Parker, I think we need to have your blood tested for toxins." Toxins. The word hit me like a physical blow. Had my daughter-in-law been poisoning me? The blood test results came back on a Friday. I was sitting in Dr. Collins' office, Marcus beside me for moral support, when she opened the file. "Mrs. Parker, I'm not sure how to tell you this." My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "There are traces of industrial chemicals in your bloodstream. Chemicals that have been linked to brain tumors in laboratory studies." The room went silent except for the ticking of the clock on her wall. "How is that possible?" I whispered. "These chemicals aren't found in nature. They're manufactured. Someone would have had to give them to you deliberately, over a period of several months." Marcus leaned forward. "Doctor, could these chemicals cause the type of cancer Mrs. Parker has?" "It's entirely possible. In fact, it's likely." I felt like I was falling down a deep, dark hole. My daughter-in-law hadn't just abandoned me during my cancer fight. She had given me cancer. Jessica had tried to murder me. Do you know what it feels like to realize someone you trusted was slowly poisoning you? Do you know what it's like to understand that every caring gesture was actually an attempt to kill you? I threw up right there in the doctor's office. When I finally stopped shaking, Dr. Collins continued. "Mrs. Parker, we need to report this to the police. This is attempted murder." But I wasn't ready for the police yet. I needed proof. Real proof that would hold up in court. "Marcus," I said, my voice stronger than I felt, "I need you to find out exactly how Jessica got these chemicals. I need you to prove she did this." Over the next month, Marcus dug deeper into Jessica and Derek's life. What he found was even worse than I had imagined. They weren't just in debt. They were about to lose their house. Derek had been laid off from his job 8 months ago and hadn't told me. They'd been living off credit cards ever since. But here's the part that broke my heart completely. They had already spent my life insurance money in their heads. Jessica had shown Derek pictures of a new house they could buy after I died. They'd picked out a vacation to Hawaii. They'd even looked at private schools for Emma and Tyler. They were planning their new life with my death money. And when the poison didn't kill me fast enough, when I got cancer instead of dying quickly, they decided to abandon me and let the disease finish what they started. Have you ever discovered that your entire family was just waiting for you to die? Have you ever realized that the people you loved most saw you as nothing more than a paycheck? But Marcus found something else. Something that would change everything. Mrs. Parker, Derek wasn't just a victim of Jessica's plan. He helped her. My son, my baby boy, had helped poison his own mother. The evidence was all there. Derek's work computer showed searches for untraceable poisons and how to cause cancer. His phone records showed calls to chemical supply companies. My own son had researched how to murder me. I sat in my empty house that night, looking at photos of Derek as a little boy. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, his high school graduation. Where had I gone wrong? How had I raised a monster? But then I looked at another photo, Emma and Tyler at last year's Easter, before I got sick. They were innocent. They didn't know what their parents had done. I couldn't destroy Derek and Jessica without protecting those babies. So I made a decision that would shock everyone, including myself. I was going to forgive my family publicly. I was going to play the loving grandmother who just wanted her family back. And while I did that, I was going to quietly destroy them in ways they never saw coming. Playing the loving grandmother was harder than fighting cancer. I called Derek first. It had been 4 months since we'd spoken. Derek, sweetheart, it's Mom. Silence on the other end.
Then, Mom?
How are you feeling? How was I feeling? Like my son had tried to murder me and then abandoned me to die alone. But I needed him to think I was weak and forgiving. Oh, honey, I'm doing better. The treatments are working. But I've been so lonely without my family. I could almost hear him calculating in his head. If I was getting better, his inheritance was disappearing. Mom, we've wanted to visit. It's just been so hard with work and the kids' schedules.
Lies.
All lies. But I played along. I understand, sweetheart. But I was hoping maybe Emma and Tyler could come for sleepover this weekend. I miss them so much. Another pause. Let me check with Jessica. Jessica, the woman who'd been slowly poisoning me for months. Actually, Derek, why don't you all come for dinner Sunday? I'll make that pot roast you love. Do you know how hard it is to offer to cook for someone who tried to kill you? Do you know what it takes to pretend you still love someone who wanted you dead? But I had to do it. Because while they were eating my pot roast, Marcus would be installing hidden cameras throughout my house. Sunday came. Derek, Jessica, Emma, and Tyler showed up at my door like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't ignored me for 4 months while I fought for my life. Emma ran to me first. Grandma Millie, you look better. Sweet Emma. So innocent. So unaware that her mother was a killer and her father was an accomplice. I feel much better, sweetheart. The doctors say I might beat this thing. I watched Jessica's face carefully when I said that. For just a split second, I saw disappointment flash in her eyes. She was disappointed that I was surviving.
Dinner was surreal.
We sat around my dining room table like a normal family. Derek told me about his new job. Lie, he was still unemployed. Jessica talked about the kids' activities. Truth, she was spending my would-be death money on keeping up appearances. Emma and Tyler chattered about school. And the whole time, hidden cameras were recording everything. Mom, Derek said as Jessica served dessert, we've been thinking about your situation here. This big house, living alone, managing your medical appointments. Here it comes, I thought. We think maybe it's time to consider assisted living. There's a nice place called Sunset Manor. They have medical staff on site. Sunset Manor. I knew that place. It was where old people went to die forgotten and alone. Oh, I don't think I'm ready for that yet, I said sweetly. I'm managing fine here. Jessica jumped in. But, Mom, what if you have another seizure? What if you fall? We're so worried about you. Worried? The woman who poisoned me was worried about my safety. We could sell this house, Derek continued. Use the money to pay for your care. It would take such a burden off your shoulders. And put about $800,000 in their pockets. Well, I said slowly, I suppose we could look at some options. I watched their faces light up. They thought they were winning. But while we were discussing my future imprisonment at Sunset Manor, Marcus was in their car, planting GPS trackers and recording devices. Over the next 2 weeks, those devices captured conversations that would make your blood run cold. She's taking forever to die, Jessica complained to Derek as they drove home from grocery shopping. The insurance company is starting to ask questions about why I took out such a large policy right before she got sick. Maybe we should have used more of the chemical, Derek replied. Made sure it killed her instead of just giving her cancer. Do you know what it's like to hear your own child discuss murdering you like they're talking about the weather? Do you know what it feels like to realize your family sees you as nothing more than an obstacle to their happiness? But the conversation that broke my heart the most came 3 days later. Emma was in the car with them, coming home from soccer practice. "Mommy, when is Grandma Millie coming to live with us?" she asked innocently. "She's not, baby," Jessica replied. "Grandma is going to go live in a special place where nurses can take care of her." "But I want to take care of her. I love Grandma Millie." Derek's voice was sharp. "Emma, Grandma is very sick. She's not going to get better. And when people are that sick, sometimes it's better if they just go to sleep forever." My 8-year-old granddaughter was being prepared for my death by her own father. That night, I called Marcus. "How much more evidence do we need?" "Mrs. Parker, we have enough to put them both away for attempted murder. But there's something else we need to discuss."
What?
"What do you want to happen to Emma and Tyler when their parents are arrested?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. Those babies would need somewhere to go. Someone to love them and protect them. Someone like their grandmother who'd survived everything their parents had thrown at her. "I want custody," I said firmly. "I want to raise them myself." "Mrs. Parker, you're 67 years old with a cancer diagnosis. Courts don't usually grant custody to—" "Marcus," I interrupted, "I've survived attempted murder and fought cancer alone for 5 years. I think I can handle raising 2 children. Besides, Emma and Tyler deserved better than parents who saw murder as a solution to their problems. They deserved a grandmother who would die for them instead of killing for money." The next morning, I called the police. Detective Sarah Martinez arrived at my house on a Wednesday morning. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Mrs. Parker, these are very serious accusations. You're saying your son and daughter-in-law attempted to murder you." I handed her the thick file Marcus had compiled. Blood tests showing industrial chemicals. Insurance policies taken out right before my diagnosis. Recorded conversations discussing my death like a business transaction. She flipped through page after page, her expression getting grimmer with each piece of evidence. "This is extensive," she said finally. "How long have you known about this?" "I suspected something was wrong when they abandoned me during treatment. But I only found out about the poisoning 6 weeks ago." Detective Martinez looked up from the file. "Mrs. Parker, why didn't you call us immediately when you got the blood test results?" How could I explain it? How could I tell her that part of me had hoped I was wrong? That my son couldn't possibly have tried to murder his own mother? "I needed to be sure," I said quietly. "I needed proof that would stick in court. Because once I accuse them, there's no going back. Derek is my only child. Emma and Tyler are my only grandchildren. If I'm wrong—" "But you're not wrong." She closed the file. "Mrs. Parker, this is one of the clearest cases of attempted murder I've ever seen. We'll need you to come to the station to make a formal statement. And we'll need to arrest Derek and Jessica Parker immediately." My heart was pounding. What about Emma and Tyler? They're just children. They don't know what their parents did. Child Services will place them temporarily while the case is pending. Eventually, they'll go to relatives or foster care. "Detective Martinez, I want custody of those children. They're my grandchildren, and they're innocent in all this." She studied my face carefully. "Mrs. Parker, you understand that taking custody of 2 young children while you're recovering from cancer treatment is a significant responsibility. Do you know what it's like to have someone question whether you're strong enough to raise children when you've just survived your own family trying to kill you? Do you know how it feels to have to prove you're worthy of love after everything you've been through? Detective, I've been fighting for my life for 5 years. I've survived attempted murder and abandonment. I think I can handle bedtime stories and homework." She smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. "I think you probably can. Let me make some calls." The arrests happened the next day. I insisted on being there when they came for Derek and Jessica. I needed to see their faces when they realized their plan had failed completely. Derek answered the door in his pajamas. It was 6 a.m. "Derek Parker, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Millicent Parker," Detective Martinez announced. The color drained from his face.
What?
There must be some mistake. No mistake, son. I stepped out from behind the detective. I know what you did. I know about the chemicals. I know about the insurance policy. I know everything. Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Behind him, I could hear Jessica screaming as officers placed her in handcuffs. Mom, please, you have to listen to me. I listened to you for 35 years, Derek. I loved you, supported you, trusted you with my life. And you tried to murder me for money. Tears were streaming down his face now. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. The chemicals were just supposed to make you sick, maybe confused. Jessica said if you were in a nursing home, we could manage your money better. Even now, he was lying. Even now, he couldn't admit the truth. Derek, you researched how to cause cancer. You helped poison me for months. And when that didn't kill me fast enough, you abandoned me and waited for me to die alone. The neighbors were starting to come out of their houses. Emma and Tyler were crying upstairs, terrified by the commotion. The children, Derek pleaded. Please don't let them see this. For the first time in months, we agreed on something. Detective Martinez, can we get the children out of here before? Already handled, Mrs. Parker. Child Services is upstairs with them now. As Derek and Jessica were led away in handcuffs, I walked upstairs to find Emma and Tyler. They were sitting on Emma's bed, clutching each other, tears streaming down their faces. A social worker was trying to calm them, but they were inconsolable. Grandma Millie. Emma ran to me as soon as she saw me. Why are the police taking Mommy and Daddy? How do you explain to an 8-year-old that her parents tried to murder her grandmother? How do you tell a 5-year-old that his family is falling apart because of greed and hatred? Sweetheart, your Mommy and Daddy made some very bad choices. They hurt people, and now they have to face the consequences. Did they hurt you, Grandma? Tyler asked, his little voice breaking. I knelt down so I was at their eye level. Yes, baby. They did hurt me. But I'm okay now. And the most important thing is that you two are safe. What's going to happen to us? Emma whispered. I looked at the social worker, who nodded encouragingly. Well, I said, pulling both children into my arms. If you want, you can come live with me. We can be a family together. Have you ever seen hope return to a child's eyes? Have you ever watched someone realize that they're not alone after all? Forever. Tyler asked. For as long as you want, sweetheart. Forever and always. As I held my grandchildren, I realized something important. Derek and Jessica had tried to destroy me, but they'd actually given me the greatest gift of my life. They'd given me Emma and Tyler. And unlike their parents, I would never, ever let them down. Have you ever had someone threaten to hurt innocent people just to silence you? Have you ever realized that the criminal conspiracy you uncovered was bigger and more dangerous than you could have imagined? That cold, threatening voice kept echoing in Marlowe's mind. People you care about are going to start getting hurt. Sage, we need to call this off. If they're willing to hurt people?
No.
Sage's voice was firm. That's exactly what they want. They want you scared and running. But think about this. Who do you care about that they could actually hurt? Marlowe thought for a moment. The sad truth was, after Robert died and she'd isolated herself, there weren't many people in her life. Her sister lived across the country. Her few friends from the hospital had drifted away. I don't have many people left in my life. Then they're bluffing. It's a scare tactic. Sage pulled into a parking garage downtown. But just to be safe, we're going to do this differently. They spent the next hour at an electronics store, where Sage bought a small recording device and showed Marlowe how to use it. This goes in your pocket. It records everything within 20 feet. When Kieran and Paisley show up at that motel thinking they're about to watch you get arrested, you're going to get them talking. What if they don't say anything incriminating? Trust me, they will. Criminals always want to gloat when they think they've won. Especially these two. They've been planning this for 15 years. They'll want to tell you exactly how smart they think they are. An hour before the fake arrest was scheduled, Sage dropped Marlowe off 3 blocks from the Riverside Motel. Remember, stay hidden in the bushes behind the motel. When you see them arrive, that's when you move in. Get close enough to record, but stay out of sight. Marlowe's heart was pounding as she crouched behind the overgrown shrubs at the back of the motel parking lot. Through the branches, she could see room 237 clearly. At exactly 6 p.m., 2 sheriff's cars and an ambulance pulled into the parking lot. The psychiatric evaluation team was there too, ready to take her into custody. 5 minutes later, a familiar silver sedan pulled up. Kieran and Paisley got out, both wearing satisfied smiles. Marlowe turned on the recording device and crept closer. "I can't believe it's finally happening," Paisley was saying as they walked toward the police officers. 15 years of playing the perfect daughter-in-law. "You did good, Pius. Even I started to believe you actually cared about the old man."
Please.
Robert Chen was the easiest mark we ever hit. So desperate for a son, so eager to believe your fake DNA test.
Kieran laughed.
And Marlowe was even easier. Sweet little nurse, always wanting to help everyone. She never suspected a thing. Officer Patterson approached them. "Are you the family members who called this in?" "Yes," Paisley said, putting on a concerned expression. "We're so worried about her mental state. She's been making these wild accusations, claiming we're trying to steal from her." "Well, we'll get her the help she needs. The facility she's going to has an excellent program for elderly patients with dementia." "How long will she be there?"
Kieran asked.
"Cases like this? Usually permanent. Once someone is this far gone, they rarely recover enough to live independently." Marlowe felt sick, but she kept recording. "That's probably for the best," Paisley said. "She really can't take care of herself anymore." The officer knocked on the motel room door. No answer. He knocked again, then used the key the desk clerk had provided. "She's not here." Marlowe watched as Kieran and Paisley's expressions changed from satisfaction to worry. "What do you mean she's not here?" Paisley demanded. "The room is empty. No signs anyone was ever here." Kieran pulled out his phone and stepped away from the group. Marlowe crept closer to hear his conversation. "She's not at the motel. I don't know where she is." "Well, find her. We can't let her keep digging around." He hung up and walked back to Paisley, but kept his voice low. Marlowe had to strain to hear. "Marcus says she's been asking questions at Dad's old law office. She knows about the fake will." "How much does she know?" "Enough to cause problems. Marcus thinks we should move up the timeline." "Move up what timeline?" "The final phase. Make it look like an accident." Marlowe's blood turned cold. They were talking about killing her. "Are you sure Marcus can handle that? He screwed up the motel thing. He's handled permanent solutions before. Remember Oregon? That old lady's death was ruled natural causes. Because Marcus knows what he's doing. A little something in her medication looks like a heart attack. Nobody questions it when a 67-year-old woman dies of natural causes." The police officer returned to them. "We've checked with the front desk. Nobody matching her description ever checked in here. Looks like we got false information." "That's impossible," Paisley said, but Marlowe could see the panic in her eyes. "Someone called and said she was here." "Ma'am, do you know who made that call?" Paisley and Kieran looked at each other. They couldn't admit they didn't know, because then they'd have to explain how they'd gotten the tip. We're not sure. Maybe one of her old nursing friends." "Well, we'll keep looking for her. In the meantime, if she contacts you, please call us immediately." As the police cars drove away, Kieran and Paisley stood in the motel parking lot, clearly agitated. "This is bad, Kieran. If she's not where we thought she was, where is she?" "I don't know, but we need to find her before she finds more evidence." "What if she goes to the FBI?" "Then we disappear. Tonight. We take what we can from the accounts and we're gone." "What about the house? The insurance money from her apartment?" "Forget it. We take the liquid assets and run." Paisley was pacing now. 15 years of work, Kieran. 15 years of pretending to care about these people. It was worth it. Even if we only get half of what we planned, it's still over $100,000. But I wanted it all. I wanted to watch her die in that nursing home, knowing we'd won. Maybe we still can. Marcus is tracking her phone. Once he finds her, Kieran's phone buzzed. He answered immediately. "Yeah. Are you sure?" Okay, we're on our way. He hung up and grabbed Paisley's arm. Marcus found her. She's at that neighbor lady's house. Sage Williams. The old lawyer? Former lawyer. And Marcus says she's been making phone calls. To the FBI. Then we're too late. Not necessarily. Marcus has a plan. They rushed to their car, and Marlo realized with horror what was about to happen. They were going after Sage. She had to warn her. But as she stood up from the bushes, a hand grabbed her shoulder. Going somewhere, Mrs. Chin? She turned around to face a large man in a black jacket. He had cold eyes and a cruel smile. You must be Marcus. Smart lady. Too smart for your own good. People know where I am. If I disappear... Actually, nobody knows where you are. Your friend Sage thinks you're safely hidden at a different location. She's about to get a very unpleasant surprise. Marcus pulled out a syringe filled with clear liquid. This won't hurt much. And when they find your body tomorrow, it'll look like you had a heart attack from all the stress of losing your home in the tornado. As Marcus grabbed her arm, Marlo realized the recording device was still running in her pocket. Everything had been captured. Now she just had to survive long enough for someone to find it. Have you ever been seconds away from death and realized the only thing standing between you and survival was pure determination? Have you ever had to fight someone twice your size when everything you cared about was on the line? Marcus was stronger than Marlo, but he'd made one crucial mistake. He underestimated a woman who'd spent 43 years dealing with medical emergencies. As the syringe came toward her arm, Marlo did something that surprised them both. Instead of pulling away, she stepped closer and drove her knee straight into Marcus's groin with all the force she could manage. He doubled over with a grunt of pain, dropping the syringe. It shattered on the asphalt. You crazy old. But Marlo was already running. 43 years of 12-hour nursing shifts had kept her in better shape than most people her age. She sprinted through the motel parking lot toward the street. Behind her, she could hear Marcus cursing and stumbling, trying to chase her. But he was still recovering from her attack. Marlo's mind was racing as fast as her feet. Sage was in danger. Kieran and Paisley were heading to her house right now. She had to warn her, but her phone was in her purse back at Sage's house. She needed help, and she needed it fast. 2 blocks from the motel, she saw a police car parked outside a convenience store. The officer was inside, buying coffee. Marlo burst through the store doors, gasping for breath. Officer, I need help. Someone just tried to kill me. The young police officer looked her up and down, an elderly woman, disheveled, clearly agitated. She could see him making assumptions about her mental state. Ma'am, calm down. What's your name? Marlo Chen. There's a man named Marcus who just tried to inject me with something. And there are people planning to hurt my friend Sage Williams right now. The officer's expression changed. Did you say Marlo Chen? Yes. Ma'am, we've been looking for you. There's a psychiatric hold order for your arrest. Marlo's heart sank. No, you don't understand. That's part of the setup. They're trying to have me committed so they can steal my money. Ma'am, I need you to come with me quietly. Officer, please listen to me. My friend Sage Williams lives at 412 Maple Street. She's a retired lawyer, and she's in danger right now. Can you at least send someone to check on her? The officer hesitated. Ma'am, I can't just... Please, just have someone do a welfare check. If I'm crazy, then there's no harm in checking. But if I'm right, you might save her life. Something in Marlo's voice must have convinced him. He reached for his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. Can you send someone to do a welfare check at 412 Maple Street? Resident is Sage Williams. Unit 47, we have units responding to a break-in at that address right now. Marlo felt her legs give out. She was too late. Ma'am, are you all right? They're already there. Oh God, they're going to kill her. The officer helped her into his patrol car. Ma'am, I'm still going to have to take you in for the psychiatric evaluation, but I'm going to ask dispatch to expedite the welfare check. As they drove toward 412 Maple Street, the officer's radio crackled to life. All units, we have a 911 call from 412 Maple Street. Elderly female caller reporting intruders in her home. Says they're trying to kill her. Units 12 and 23 are en route. Step on it, Marlowe urged. To his credit, the young officer did. They arrived at Sage's house just as two other police cars pulled up. The front door was standing wide open. Stay in the car, the officer told Marlowe, but she was already getting out. Sage. Sage, where are you? A voice called from inside the house. Back here. In the kitchen. Marlowe rushed inside, followed by 3 police officers. They found Sage tied to a kitchen chair, but otherwise unharmed. Marcus was nowhere to be seen, but Kieran and Paisley were standing against the wall, their hands raised. Thank God, Sage gasped when she saw Marlowe. I thought they'd killed you. They tried. Marlowe showed the officers the torn fabric on her sleeve, where Marcus had grabbed her. A man named Marcus tried to inject me with something at the Riverside Motel. Ma'am, one of the officers said to Paisley, we need you to put your hands behind your back. This is ridiculous. Paisley protested. We're the victims here. This woman is mentally ill. She's been making paranoid accusations about us for days. Is that so? Sage spoke up as the officers untied her. Then how do you explain this? She held up a small recording device. What is that? Kieran demanded. Insurance, Sage said. I recorded everything that happened here tonight, including your confession about forging wills, stealing money, and planning to murder Marlowe. Marlowe felt a surge of hope. You recorded them? Every word, including the part where they admitted to killing an elderly woman in Oregon and making it look like natural causes. The police officers looked at each other. This was clearly more serious than a simple psychiatric hold. Ma'am, the lead officer said to Marlowe, we're going to need you to come to the station to give a statement, but not for a psychiatric evaluation. As they loaded Kieran and Paisley into separate patrol cars, Paisley's mask finally slipped completely. You stupid old witch, she screamed at Marlowe. You have no idea what you've cost us. 15 years of work. 15 years of lies, Marlowe replied quietly. But as the police cars drove away, Sage grabbed Marlowe's arm. This isn't over, she said quietly. What do you mean? Marcus got away. And there's something else. Sage showed Marlowe her laptop screen. While they were tying me up, I managed to send an email to my friend at the FBI. But I also discovered something else about Kieran and Paisley. What? They're not just brother and sister. They're part of a larger organization, a network of people who specialize in elder fraud. Marlowe stared at the screen. There were photos of at least a dozen people, all connected to similar crimes across multiple states. How many victims? At least 30 that we can identify. Maybe more. And Marcus. He's not just muscle. He's their cleanup specialist. The one they call when witnesses need to be eliminated. A chill ran down Marlowe's spine. So, even with Kieran and Paisley arrested, Marcus is still out there. And now he knows you can identify him. He knows you have evidence against the entire organization. What are you saying? I'm saying you're not safe yet. None of us are. As if on cue, Sage's home phone rang. She answered hesitantly. Hello. A familiar cold voice spoke loud enough for Marlowe to hear. You cost us a lot of money tonight, ladies. A lot of time. A lot of careful planning. Marcus, Sage said. That's right. And I want you both to know, this isn't over. We know where you live, Sage. We know where you work, Marlowe. We know your routines, your friends, your family. The police are looking for you. The police don't know who they're looking for. I have 6 different identities and 3 different passports. But I only have one job left to finish. The line went dead. Sage looked at Marlowe with fear in her eyes. We need to disappear. Tonight. But as they started packing emergency bags, they heard a sound that made their blood run cold. Footsteps on the front porch. And the distinctive click of someone picking the front door lock. Marcus hadn't left town after all. He'd come back to finish what he started. Have you ever been trapped in a house with a killer outside, knowing that law enforcement is too far away to help? Have you ever had to choose between running and fighting when both options seemed impossible? The lock clicking stopped. Sage and Marlowe froze in the kitchen, listening to the silence. Then the front door creaked open. Sage pointed toward the back door, but Marlowe shook her head. If Marcus was smart, and he'd proven he'd have someone watching the back exit too. Heavy footsteps moved through the living room. Marcus wasn't trying to be quiet anymore. He wanted them to know he was there. He wanted them afraid. "Ladies," his voice called out casually. "I know you're here. Let's make this easy." Sage grabbed a knife from the kitchen counter, but Marlowe had a better idea. She quietly opened the basement door and motioned for Sage to follow her downstairs. The basement was dark and cluttered, full of boxes and old furniture. But Marlowe remembered something from her nursing days. Sometimes the best hiding place was the most obvious one. She led Sage behind the furnace, where shadows were deepest. Above them, they could hear Marcus moving through the house, opening closets, checking rooms. "I know you're scared," he called out. "But this doesn't have to be painful. I can make it quick, like I did with that lady in Oregon." She went peacefully in her sleep. Sage's hand found Marlowe's arm. They both understood now. Marcus had murdered before, and he would murder again. The footsteps stopped directly above them. Marcus had found the basement door. Basement, huh? Classic hiding spot. The basement light clicked on. Marlowe and Sage pressed themselves deeper into the shadows behind the furnace. Marcus's feet appeared on the wooden stairs. Step by step, he descended into their hiding place. "You know what your problem is, ladies? You think you're smarter than you are. You think because you caught Kieran and Paisley you've won." He reached the bottom of the stairs and began moving through the basement, checking behind boxes, under tables. But Kieran and Paisley were small time. "I'm the real problem." A box crashed to the floor as he shoved it aside. "I've been doing this for 20 years. Do you know how many people I've eliminated? How many witnesses who thought they were clever?" Another crash. He was getting closer to their hiding spot. 37 people. All of them thought they could outsmart me. Marlowe's heart was pounding so loud, she was sure he could hear it. Sage was gripping the kitchen knife, so tightly her knuckles were white. "The thing is, I actually respect you too. You figured out a pretty complex operation. You got evidence. You involved the right authorities. Marcus was now only a few feet away from the furnace. But you made one fatal mistake." "What mistake?" Sage suddenly stood up from behind the furnace, the knife raised. Marcus smiled. He'd been expecting this. "You assumed I was working alone." That's when they heard the front door open again. More footsteps upstairs. At least 2 more people. "Meet my associates," Marcus said. "We're a full-service organization." Marlowe realized with growing horror that this wasn't just about silencing witnesses. This was about sending a message to anyone else who might interfere with their operations. But then something unexpected happened. "Police. Search warrant." The footsteps upstairs weren't Marcus's associates. They were law enforcement. Marcus's confident expression faltered. "That's impossible." "FBI." Everyone on the ground now. More voices, more footsteps. The basement suddenly felt like it was shaking with the force of multiple agents moving through the house. "Down here," Sage shouted. "He's in the basement." Marcus spun toward them, no longer calm and controlled. His hand moved toward his jacket, reaching for a weapon. But Marlowe had spent 4 decades dealing with emergencies. Her instincts kicked in before her fear could stop her. She grabbed a heavy wrench from Sage's workbench and swung it at Marcus's wrist just as he pulled out a gun. The weapon went flying across the basement floor. "FBI." Hands in the air. 3 agents rushed down the basement stairs, weapons drawn. Marcus raised his hands, but his eyes were still fixed on Marlowe with deadly promise. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is," one of the FBI agents said as he cuffed Marcus. "We've been tracking your organization for 2 years. Tonight's the night we roll up the whole network." As they led Marcus upstairs, another agent approached Marlowe and Sage. "Are you ladies all right? How did you know to come here?" Sage asked. "We got a call from someone who said they had recordings of a criminal organization admitting to multiple murders and frauds. Someone gave us this address and said lives were in immediate danger." Marlowe looked at Sage in confusion. "Who called?" I did. A familiar voice came from the top of the basement stairs. They looked up to see Officer Patterson, the young police officer who had initially been skeptical of Marlowe's story. Officer Patterson? He came down the stairs with a sheepish expression. Mrs. Chun, I owe you an apology. When I heard that 911 call from Mrs. Williams and then saw the evidence you both had gathered, I realized I'd almost made a terrible mistake. You called the FBI? I forwarded all the information to them immediately. The recording device Mrs. Williams had, the documents you'd found, everything. They'd been building a case against this organization, but they needed witnesses and evidence. So we're really safe now. The FBI agent nodded. Marcus Holbrook, that's his real name, was wanted in connection with at least 12 suspicious deaths across 4 states. Your evidence was the missing piece we needed to connect all the cases. As they walked upstairs, Marlowe could see law enforcement vehicles lining the entire block. This was much bigger than just her case. What happens now? Now we process the evidence, and you both will likely be asked to testify at trial. But the immediate danger is over. What about Kieran and Paisley? They're already talking, trying to cut deals by providing information about the larger organization. Turns out you were just one of dozens of targets they had in various stages of development. Sage sank into her living room chair, exhausted. Dozens of families being torn apart by fraud. Not anymore, the FBI agent said. Thanks to you two, we can contact every potential victim and warn them before it's too late. As the law enforcement teams finished processing the scene, Marlowe realized something that made her smile for the first time in days. Sage, what's today's date? October 15th. Why? It's been exactly 1 week since the tornado destroyed my apartment. Feels like a lifetime. In 1 week, I lost everything I thought I had and discovered everything I actually have. What do you mean? I thought I had a family, money, security. Turns out I had lies, theft, and people trying to kill me. That doesn't sound like a good thing. But now I have the truth. I have justice. I have a real friend. Marlowe looked at Sage. And I have something I haven't had in years. What's that? Purpose. But just as Marlowe was starting to feel like the nightmare was over, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Marcus was just the cleanup crew. The real boss hasn't even noticed you yet. But now you have our attention. Congratulations, Marlowe. You just made our permanent list. The threat was from a different number. A different person. And as she showed the message to the FBI agent, his expression grew grim. Mrs. Chun, I think we need to talk about witness protection. Have you ever solved one problem only to discover it was just the tip of the iceberg? Have you ever realized that the people trying to destroy you were just following orders from someone much more dangerous? The FBI agent, who introduced himself as Special Agent Rodriguez, sat across from Marlowe and Sage in the secure conference room at the federal building. His expression was serious as he studied the threatening text message. This changes everything, he said quietly. What do you mean? Marcus, Kieran, and Paisley were what we call field operatives. They run the day-to-day cons, handle the victims, execute the plans. But they don't make the big decisions. Agent Rodriguez pulled out a thick file and spread several photographs across the table. These are people we believe are part of the leadership structure. We don't have real names for most of them. We don't have addresses. We barely have reliable descriptions. Marlowe studied the photos. Blurry surveillance shots, sketch artists' renditions, driver's license photos that were probably fake. How many people are we talking about? At the operational level? Maybe 30 or 40 people like Marcus spread across the country. At the leadership level? We think maybe 5 or 6 people control the entire network. And they make money by elder fraud. It's a multi-million-dollar industry. They target elderly people with assets, infiltrate their families or social circles, and systematically drain their resources. When victims get suspicious or seek help, they're eliminated. Sage leaned forward. How long has this been going on? We've tracked similar patterns going back at least 15 years. Possibly longer. 15 years, Marlowe repeated. That's exactly how long Kieran was part of my life. Which suggests your case wasn't random. Someone identified you and Robert as targets very early, then spent more than a decade setting up the perfect crime. The magnitude of it was overwhelming. 15 years of her life had been a carefully orchestrated lie. What's witness protection like? Marlowe asked. New identity, new location, complete separation from your previous life. It's effective, but it's also... Agent Rodriguez paused. It's a different kind of prison, Mrs. Chen. You be safe, but you'd never be free. What's the alternative? We use you as bait. The room went quiet. Absolutely not, Sage said immediately. She's been through enough. Hear me out, Agent Rodriguez continued. These people just sent a threatening message to Mrs. Chen. That means they're going to come after her anyway. If we can control the circumstances, we can catch them. And if you can't control the circumstances, then Mrs. Chen dies, and they disappear forever. Marlowe was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, she spoke. How many other people are they targeting right now? People like me who don't know what's happening to them. Based on the information Kieran and Paisley have provided, at least 20 active cases that we know of. 20 families being destroyed. Yes. And if I go into witness protection, those people... We'll try to warn them, but without more evidence, it's hard to prove what's happening. These operations are very sophisticated. Marlowe looked at Sage, then back at Agent Rodriguez. If I help you catch the leaders, it stops all of this? It significantly damages their ability to continue operations, yes. Then I'll do it. Marlowe, no, Sage protested. This is too dangerous. Sage, 3 days ago, I was sleeping in a garage, thinking my stepson and daughter-in-law just didn't want me around. Now I find out they've been planning to kill me for 15 years. Marlowe's voice grew stronger. If I don't help stop this, how many other elderly people are going to suffer what I've been through? Agent Rodriguez nodded approvingly. What did you have in mind? Use me as bait, like you said. But I want guarantees. What kind of guarantees? I want every potential victim warned immediately. I want Sage protected. And I want to know exactly what you're asking me to do before I agree to it. Fair enough. Agent Rodriguez opened another file. Here's what we're thinking. He showed them surveillance photos of an upscale retirement community. Sunset Gardens. It's a luxury facility about 2 hours from here. We've had reports of suspicious activity there, residents dying unexpectedly, family members appearing suddenly to claim inheritances. You think the organization is operating there? We think it's one of their hunting grounds. Wealthy elderly people, many with family complications, living in a controlled environment. And you want me to go there as what? A resident. Exactly. You'd move in, make connections with other residents, and see if you can identify any patterns of suspicious behavior. While the leadership of a criminal organization is actively trying to kill me, we'd have agents in place. Full surveillance. You'd never be alone or unprotected. Sage was shaking her head. This sounds like a suicide mission. Maybe. But it also sounds like the only way to stop them from hurting other people. Agent Rodriguez closed the files. Mrs. Chen, I need to be completely honest with you. This is dangerous. These people have killed before, and they won't hesitate to kill again. If you're not absolutely certain, I'm certain, but I have conditions. Name them. First, Sage comes with me. As my, what would make sense? Sister? Sage suggested. Sister. Second, I want daily contact with you or another agent. Not weekly check-ins, daily contact. Done. Third, if this goes bad, if they figure out what we're doing, you get us out immediately. No, stay a little longer to gather more evidence. Agreed. And fourth. Marlowe paused. I want to call my real sister, the one who lives in California. I want to tell her I love her, just in case. Agent Rodriguez nodded solemnly. Of course. As they made arrangements for Marlowe and Sage to be relocated to Sunset Gardens, Marlowe's phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. This time it was just a photo. A photo of the Sunset Gardens retirement community. With the message, "See you soon." Marlowe showed the text to Agent Rodriguez, whose face went pale. They already know, he said quietly. Know what?
They know our plan.
They're already there, waiting for you. But before anyone could respond, Sage's phone rang. The caller ID showed Sunset Gardens Administration. She answered hesitantly. Hello. Is this Sage Williams? Yes. This is Margaret from Sunset Gardens. We received your application for residency, and we're delighted to inform you that we have a beautiful 2-bedroom suite available immediately. I'm sorry, but we haven't submitted an application. Oh, but you have. Both you and your sister Marlo Chen. The application came in this morning, along with full payment for the first year. Sage looked at Agent Rodriguez with growing alarm. Who submitted the application? Why, your nephew Marcus, of course. He said you've been looking for a nice place to spend your golden years. He was very concerned about your safety after that terrible break-in at your home. The line went dead. They weren't setting a trap for the criminal organization. The criminal organization was setting a trap for them. The courtroom was packed. Every seat filled with people who wanted to see justice served. But as I sat there, watching Derek and Jessica's lawyer paint me as a confused old woman, I wondered if justice was really possible. Your Honor, their attorney said smoothly, Mrs. Parker is clearly suffering from the effects of her medical treatments. Brain cancer, chemotherapy, radiation. These treatments affect memory and judgment. Have you ever been called crazy when you were telling the absolute truth? Have you ever watched someone twist your words to make you look like the villain? I gripped my cane tighter. My hands were shaking, but not from weakness. From rage. That's when Attorney Martinez stood up. She had something in her hand. A thick folder. Your Honor, I'd like to present new evidence to the court. Derek's face went white. Jessica grabbed his arm. What could they possibly be afraid of now? Martinez opened the folder. We have bank records showing systematic theft from Mrs. Parker's accounts. Medical records proving she was mentally competent throughout her treatment. And most importantly,
She paused.
the entire courtroom held its breath. We have video evidence of the defendants discussing their plan to inherit Mrs. Parker's estate. The judge leaned forward. Video evidence. Yes, Your Honor. Security cameras from Mrs. Parker's home recorded multiple conversations between Derek and Jessica Parker discussing their mother-in-law's death as if it were inevitable and profitable. Derek jumped up. That's not what we meant. Sit down, Mr. Parker, the judge ordered. Jessica was crying now. Real tears. But were they tears of guilt or fear of getting caught? I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Hope.
But then Martinez said something that made my blood turn to ice. Your Honor, there's one more piece of evidence. Medical records showing Mrs. Parker's cancer may not have been natural. The courtroom erupted.
People gasped.
Derek and Jessica both stood up, shouting denials. What did she mean by not natural? How could cancer be anything but natural? And then I remembered something. Something I'd pushed out of my mind because it was too horrible to believe. The coffee. Jessica always brought me coffee when she visited.
Special coffee, she said.
With vitamins. Oh my God. Order. Order in the court. The judge was banging his gavel, but I could barely hear it over the ringing in my ears. Not natural. My cancer wasn't natural. I thought back to those early days. Jessica bringing me coffee every morning. It's good for you, Mom, she'd say with that sweet smile. Full of antioxidants. How could I have been so blind? The prosecutor was speaking now. Mrs. Parker, we found traces of a rare industrial chemical in your blood work from 5 years ago. A chemical that can trigger certain types of brain tumors. The courtroom was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. This chemical was found in coffee samples from your home. Coffee that we've traced back to purchases made by Jessica Parker. Have you ever had your entire world turned upside down in a single moment? Have you ever realized that the people you trusted most were actually trying to kill you? Jessica was screaming now. That's impossible. I would never hurt her. She's family.
Family.
The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Derek was whispering frantically to their lawyer. His face was red, sweating.
Guilty.
But I wasn't thinking about them anymore. I was thinking about Emma and Tyler. My grandchildren. Did they know what their parents had done? Mrs. Parker, the prosecutor continued, we believe Jessica Parker began slowly poisoning you with this chemical, hoping to cause your death and make it look natural. When you survived the initial exposure and developed cancer instead, they abandoned you, hoping the disease would finish what they started. I felt sick. Not from the cancer. From the truth. 5 years of fighting for my life. 5 years of being alone. 5 years of believing my family had abandoned me out of fear or selfishness. They hadn't abandoned me. They had tried to murder me. And when that failed, they left me to die alone. The judge was speaking to Derek and Jessica now. Something about additional charges. Murder charges. But all I could think about was one question. Why? Why had they wanted me dead so badly? The answer came during Derek's testimony. When the prosecutor asked him directly why he'd agreed to help his wife poison me, he finally broke down. She said Mom had too much money, he sobbed. She said it wasn't fair that Mom got to live in that big house while we struggled to pay our mortgage. Money. It all came down to money. Jessica said if Mom died, we'd inherit everything. We could pay off our debts. Send the kids to private school. Take vacations. Have you ever been worth more dead than alive to your own family? Have you ever been seen as nothing more than a bank account with legs? The prosecutor pressed on. So you agreed to poison your mother-in-law for money? No, Derek shouted. I never agreed to poison her. Jessica told me she was just giving Mom vitamins. I didn't know about the chemical until after Mom got sick. Liar. Even now, he was lying. Then, why didn't you visit her in the hospital? Why didn't you help with her treatment? Derek's voice got quieter. Jessica said if we stayed away, if we didn't help, the cancer would take care of itself. The room was spinning. I gripped the armrests of my chair to keep from falling over. They had wanted me to die. They had waited for me to die. They had planned my funeral while I was still fighting for my life. But I was still here. Still breathing. Still fighting. And now it was my turn. When the prosecutor asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement, I stood up. My legs were shaky, but my voice was strong. Your Honor, Derek and Jessica Parker didn't just try to take my life. They stole 5 years of precious time with my grandchildren. They stole my faith in family. They stole my peace of mind. I looked directly at Derek. His eyes were red from crying. But they didn't steal my strength. And they didn't steal my future. I turned to Jessica. She wouldn't even look at me. I forgive you both. Not because you deserve it, but because holding on to hate will only poison me the way you tried to. The judge was nodding. People in the gallery were crying. But I wasn't done yet. However, forgiveness doesn't mean there shouldn't be consequences. The sentencing hearing was 3 weeks later. In those 3 weeks, something beautiful happened. Emma called me. Grandma Millie? Her voice was small, scared. Mom and Dad said I couldn't talk to you, but I had to. I'm sorry about what they did. Have you ever heard a child apologize for their parents' crimes? Have you ever felt your heart break and heal at the same time? Oh, sweetheart, I whispered into the phone. You have nothing to apologize for. I wanted to visit you in the hospital. I drew you pictures. But Mom said you were too sick, that seeing us would make you worse. More lies. Even to the children. Tyler and I, we love you, Grandma. We never stopped loving you. That conversation gave me strength for what came next. At the sentencing, Derek got 15 years for attempted murder and elder abuse. Jessica got 20 years as the primary perpetrator. As they led them away in handcuffs, Derek looked back at me one last time. Mom, please, he called out. Think about Emma and Tyler. They need their parents. I stood up slowly. The whole courtroom was watching. Derek, I said clearly, Emma and Tyler needed their grandmother. But that didn't stop you from trying to take me away from them. The bailiff was pulling him toward the door, but he kept looking back. They're going to need someone to take care of them now. I continued. Someone who actually loves them. Someone who won't poison them or lie to them or use them.
His face changed.
Hope flickered in his eyes. Someone like me. And that's when Derek finally understood. I wasn't just surviving. I wasn't just getting justice. I was getting my grandchildren back. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following month. Emma and Tyler would come live with me while their parents served their sentences. But there was still one more surprise waiting. One more twist that would change everything. The surprise came in the form of a phone call from Attorney Martinez 2 days before Christmas. "Millicent, you need to sit down for this." I was already sitting, watching Emma and Tyler decorate our Christmas tree. Our tree. In our house. They've been living with me for 3 months now, and every day felt like a gift. "What is it?" I asked, stepping into the kitchen for privacy. "The insurance investigation is complete. Derek and Jessica's life insurance policies on you? The ones they took out without your knowledge." My blood ran cold. "What about them?" "They're worth $1.2 million. And because their attempted murder has been proven in court, the insurance company is not only voiding the policies, but paying the money to you as compensation for the fraud." I sat down hard in my kitchen chair. $1.2 million. They had put a price tag on my life. And now that money was mine. But that wasn't the biggest surprise. "There's more, Millicent. The chemical Jessica used to poison you? It's manufactured by a company Derek worked for. He's been fired, obviously." "I don't understand." "Derek had access to this chemical through his job. He brought it home. The prosecution believes he was more involved in the poisoning plot than he admitted in court." Have you ever discovered that a betrayal was even deeper than you thought? Have you ever realized that the person you trusted most was the one who hurt you worst? My own son had brought home the poison that nearly killed me. But here's the thing, Millicent. The company Derek worked for? They're being sued by 17 other families for similar cases. Industrial poisoning. Cancer clusters. This is bigger than just what happened to you. I was quiet for a long moment. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see Emma hanging ornaments on the tree. Tyler was lying on the floor, arranging the nativity set I'd had since Derek was little. "What does this mean?" I finally asked. "It means you're going to be a very wealthy woman. And it means Derek and Jessica's sentences might be extended when this new evidence comes to light." I should have felt happy. Vindicated.
Rich.
Instead, I felt tired. "Mrs. Martinez?" "Yes. I don't want the money." There was silence on the other end of the phone. "Millicent, it's over $1 million. "I know. But that money is tainted. It came from wanting me dead." I looked at my grandchildren again. Emma was trying to reach the top of the tree, standing on her tiptoes. "Put it in trust funds for Emma and Tyler. For college. For their futures. Money their parents can never touch." "Are you sure?" I walked back into the living room. Tyler ran up to me and hugged my legs. "Grandma Millie, look. I put baby Jesus in the manger." I ruffled his hair. "It's perfect, sweetheart." Yes, I was sure. It's been 2 years since the trials ended. Emma is 13 now. Tyler is 10. They call this house home. They call me Grandma Millie, not just Grandma. And sometimes, when they're feeling especially loving, they call me Mom. Derek writes letters from prison. I read them to the children when they ask, but I don't respond. Some wounds need time to heal. Some forgiveness takes longer than others. Jessica has never written, never called, never asked about her children. Maybe that's for the best. The money, all $1.2 million of it, sits in trust funds for Emma and Tyler. When they turn 18, they'll each inherit enough to go to any college they want, to start any business they dream of, to build any life they choose. But more than that, they'll inherit something their parents never gave them, the knowledge that they are loved unconditionally. Have you ever wondered if going through hell was worth it for what waited on the other side? Have you ever realized that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best thing that happens to you? My cancer is in remission. Has been for 8 months now. The doctors say I'm a miracle. But I know the truth. I'm not a miracle. I'm just stubborn. Too stubborn to die when people wanted me to. Too stubborn to stay bitter when bitterness would have poisoned me worse than any chemical. Too stubborn to give up on love when love seemed impossible. Emma is in the kitchen now, making pancakes for Sunday breakfast. She's gotten good at it. Tyler is in the living room, building something complicated with his Legos. This is my life now. Not the life I planned when I was 67 and newly widowed. Not the life I expected when I got my diagnosis, but a good life. A full life. A life worth fighting for. The doorbell rings. Tyler runs to answer it before I can stop him. "Grandma Millie," he calls. "There's a lady here to see you." I walk to the door, wondering who could be visiting on a Sunday morning. Standing on my porch is a woman about Emma's age, maybe 15 or 16. She has Derek's eyes. Jessica's nose. "Mrs. Parker," she says quietly. "I'm Sarah. I'm Derek's daughter. From before he married Jessica." My heart stops. Derek had another child. A child he never told us about. A child who'd been out there all these years alone. "I heard about what happened," she continues. "About the trial. About Emma and Tyler living with you. I was hoping." She doesn't need to finish the sentence. I can see it in her eyes. The same look Emma and Tyler had when they first came to live with me. The look of a child who needs a home. I open the door wider. "Come in, sweetheart. Let's get you some breakfast and you can tell me everything." As she steps into my house, our house, I think about how strange life can be. How the worst betrayal can lead to the greatest blessings. How losing one family can mean gaining another. Emma pokes her head around the corner. "Who's here, Grandma?" "Emma, Tyler," I say, putting my arm around Sarah's shoulders. "I'd like you to meet your sister." And just like that, our family grows again. Not through blood or marriage or legal documents, but through love.
Through choice.
Through the simple decision to open your heart when it would be easier to keep it closed. Derek wanted me dead for money. Jessica wanted me gone for greed. But life had different plans. Life wanted me alive to love these children. To give them the family they deserved. To show them that home isn't about who shares your DNA, it's about who shares your heart. I spent 5 years fighting brain cancer. Nobody showed up, but I survived. And in surviving, I discovered something beautiful. Sometimes when your old family abandons you, life gives you a new one. And sometimes that new family is exactly what you were meant to have all along. Do you believe that everything happens for a reason? Do you believe that our greatest trials can lead to our greatest triumphs? I do now. And as I watch my 3 grandchildren, Emma, Tyler, and Sarah, laughing over pancakes in my kitchen, I know that every day I fought to live was worth it. Every single day.